Evening to you and welcome. So, Chetan, it is live here. Yeah, it is live now.
Everyone. Jai Shri.
Yes, sir. Good evening to you, JSG, and welcome to this event. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
We can't see him.
That's okay. But
So
yes, can you
I
hear?
I'm traveling. Once I reach
No
home, I'll
problem, sir.
switch on the
Okay, not
camera.
a problem.
Not a problem, sir.
Yeah. Till then, maybe
Okay,
others
so
can speak. I may take
yes.
10-15 minutes to reach home.
No problem, sir. You will, as it is, speak in the end because we want to hear as a concluding things from you. So you can take your time. Yes.
Shall I begin?
Yes, please.
A very good evening. On behalf of Hyderabad Management Association and Indian Direct Selling Association, I welcome the distinguished and august panelists, respected MC members, and advisors, the audience who are viewing this live on our social media platforms on the topic Role of Entrepreneurship in Self-Reliant India. With this, I hand the floor to Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, our president.
Thank you, ma'am, and respective members of HMA, IDSA, and others who are watching us today for this very important topic, the webinar on role of entrepreneurship in self-reliant India. The management committee of IDSA and HMA, I welcome them, and I, along with all of them, are very enthusiastic today and welcome the distinguished guest, Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, IAS Officer, Principal Secretary, Industries and Commerce and Information Technology, Telangana Government. So we have a representation from a government which is the pioneer in entrepreneurship and stands out as number one in terms of bringing entrepreneurship, and the seeds which were sown by none other than Mr. Jayesh Ranjan is now matured and giving the fruits. Then we have Mr. Ajay Khanna, the Vice President and Country Head, Herbalife International India Private Limited. Well, long back, when the Herbalife was just introduced, probably I became a seller for them in Thailand. So I don't forget Herbalife. Good to see you, Mr. Ajay Khanna here. We have Mr. Shishir Jha, General Manager and Country Head for Life Trading India Private Limited, and look forward to seeing what Mumbai is going to offer in terms of the entrepreneurship and the discussion of self-reliant. We have our own MC member, Mr. V. Venkatraman, the MD and CEO of Seedworks International Private Limited. Welcome to you, sir. And my past company and my past colleague, represented by Lieutenant Commander Navy Sainath Abhiraju, the area head of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh from Larsen and Chubro. So we have a very power-packed, panelist here, and we are going to discuss about the role of entrepreneurship in self-reliant India. Before I start into this entire session, I will request, Kavita Garu to give a little introduction about HMA as well as introduce the three panelists which have been brought by HMA on this panel. Please, Kavita Garu. You are off. Mic is off, Chetan. Kavita's mic is off.
Oh, yeah.
A very
Yes,
good
Kavita,
evening
you
to
can go
all,
ahead.
and it's my pleasure and honor to introduce all the esteemed panel members today. And on behalf of HMA is the oldest body in the country and which is into managerial development activities which we promote, manager development, and we are associated with the major corporates, and we are also associated with academicians. It's a finest link between the corporates, academicians, and bureaucrats. And now that I'm a vice president of HMA, I would like to introduce our principal secretary, who has been a role model in developing Telangana and taking it forward and giving a power-packed state of information technology on entrepreneurship and all. Today, Telangana is recognized because of our principal secretary, Jayesh Ranjan Garu. So it's my honor to introduce him. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan Garu is a member of Indian Administrative Services IAS of the year 1992 batch and working in the state of Telangana. He holds a master's degree in psychology from Delhi University, a degree in business management from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. and a master's in public management from Lyon U School in Public Policy, National University of Singapore. He's also done a short course in University of Birmingham on Environmental Policy Analysis, JICA, Training Institute, Tokyo, on Lake Remediation, and London School of Economics on Globalization and Leadership, Kennedy School of Government, Harvard University in Public Policy, and Swedish Institute, Stockholm, on Sustainable on SCSR, and he is the All India topper of IAS batch of 1992. He was awarded the World Bank Social Capital Visiting Scholarship in 2002 and a British government Gurukul Achieving Scholarship in 2005. He has done international consultancy assignment for World Bank, UNESCAP, and SIDATE project of Mexico for international NGO work for youth issues like Yes, INC of USA, and NMC from Italy. He is part of the National Pool Trainers in Leadership constituted by Government of India. He is involved in training and mentoring newly recruited civil servants. Among this other distinguished, he was awarded a Royal Order of Polar Star by the Majestic King of Sweden in 2019 for promoting Swedish business interest in Indian, including opening of IKEA first Indian store in Hyderabad. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan is the Principal Secretary of Industry and Commerce and Information and Technology, Department of Telangana Government. His assignments involve developing policy framework, attracting new investment, identifying opportunity of utilizing IT in various government processes, and promoting digital empowerment of citizens. His last few assignments have been in the industrial promotion sector and Commissioner and MD of Industrial Department, Secretary in Tourism Promotion Department, and Vice Chairman of Hyderabad Urban Development Authority, UDA, for all 2 to 3 each, and various rural assignments in different parts of the state for over 12 years, working in diverse sectors like tribal development, natural resource management, poverty evaluation, and other related social development sectors. Mr. Jayesh Ranjan supports many social, cultural, and charitable causes, and is on the board and advisor committees of United Way, Hyderabad, Save a Child Heart, SACH Foundation, Young Lives India, Save the Children, Sparsh, Auspice, APMAS, ML Jayasima Sports Foundation, Hyderabad 10K Foundation, Vijaya Foundation Trust, Usha Lakshmi Breast Cancer Foundation, LSN Foundation, Teja Foundation, and Magic Bus Hyderabad, the World Life Foundation Hyderabad chapter, Hyderabad Literally Festival, Spice Mac, and Heal a Child Foundation, Moving Images Society to Aid and Hearing Impaired, in Institute of Public Enterprises. So it's a pleasure having you, sir. So the second speaker is Mr. Venkatraman Vasantavada, MD and CEO of Seed International Private Limited, has over 27 of work experience with the best in the class MNCs and large Indian corporation across Asia and Africa, including DuPont, Pioneer, and Massant, Advanta, UPL, and Deepak Fertilizers and Petrochemical Corporation, and VST Industries, Voltas, and Real Value Appliance. His diverse industry experience include agriculture inputs, FMGs, durables, telecom in the area of operation management, strategy planning, and business development. He successfully built and managed commercial organizations with sustained growth in revenue, profitability, market share gains, and geographical expansion. He has his credit exposure executing different go-to-market models and building innovative solutions in work situations in the area of people development, sales development, and supply chain. He worked extensively across Asia and Africa in the market served by small and marginal farmers in building strategies, alliances, and collaborative relationships, with many formulas in developing models for improving farm productivity and farm incomes. Vasantavada was on the board, old-time director of public listed Advanta, and he is a member of National Executive Committee of Rural Market Association in India, and also advisory board of Agri Business Management Institute. He has many accolades to his credit, and some of them are HMA Hyderabad Management Association Entrepreneur of the Year 2019. He has been awarded RMAI Leadership Award in 2016. This award is presented to the outstanding contribution in providing leadership in rural markets, and is also featured twice as 50 most admired rural marketing professionals in India. He is an honorary advisor of HMA Hyderabad Management Association, a certified Six Sigma Green Belt. He holds a post-graduation diploma in rural management from Institute of Rural Management, Anand IRMA, and he is a graduate in dairy technology. He is currently pursuing his PhD in business management in University of Punjab. So thank you, sir. Pleasure having you. And Sainath Abhiraju Garu, Area Manager, L&T Hyderabad. His personal interests are dynamic professional with over 18 years experience in sales and marketing, business administration, networking, contract management, combined with excellent communication and leadership skills. His work experience he's an area sales manager with L&T Hyderabad, Vadodara in 18 December 2015 until date. He heads the domestic market network of L&T AP and Telangana. He is in charge in business development of L&T Defense at Hyderabad. He is also a corporate ambassador responsible for CSR and sustainable initiation. He is a senior manager, operation and maintenance and wind. He was a senior manager at operations and maintenance and Wind World India Limited on 6th September 2013 and 15 December. Formulations and implementation of maintenance procedures for wind energy conversions, indigenization of critical supplies by means of vendor development, and is responsible for making maximum and uptime and power generation of WECS. He is a Lieutenant Commander, Indian Navy, New Delhi and Visakhapatnam in the year 2011 to 2003. 11th August 2003 to 11th August 2013. He is a member of design team responsible for indigenous construction of warships, core member of costing committee involved in finalizing detailed scope of work and cost estimation of high value shipbuilding projects, procurement manager responsible for timely supplies of desk equipment in order to meet ship maintenance schedules. His core competence are business development, sales and marketing network and operations, operation and maintenance, procurement, general administration, contract management, and CSR and sustainability. His academic credentials are in 2013, he's a general manager, programs in Institute of Management, Lucknow. 2008 diploma in Business Institute of Management Technology in Ghaziabad. 2005 PG DIIT Naval Architecture in Indian Institute of Technology in New Delhi. In 2002, he did his BE Mechanical Engineering from Usmania City. His other achievements are commanded by Chief of Naval Staff in August 2011 for displaying utmost dedication, commitment, and professional competency of a very high order. Presented technical papers on initial designs of aircraft carriers at Institute of Naval Architects and Delhi chapter in 2005. Delivered guest lectures to students, officers of naval constructing wing IIT Delhi on designs of deck equipment. Functioned as a coordinator of various students' activities of OU, IITD, and IIML. So welcome you, sir. And to tell you, my brother-in-law was into Navy too. So thank you, sir. I hand over to Chetan from IDSA. Please read the other profiles and introduce the other speakers. Thank you, Chetan.
Yeah, thank you, Kavita ji. Thank you, Sanjay ji. First of all, a very good evening to Shri Jay Shanjan ji, the Managing Committee and all office bearers of Hyderabad Management Association, the Executive Committee of IDSA, and all our viewers who are watching us live today. A special thanks to HMA for coming up with this webinar series as a joint initiative with IDSA. On behalf of over 70 million direct sellers in India, I extend my best wishes for the success of this whole initiative. Now, direct selling industry in India is nearly 25 years old now, and the IDSA was incorporated during the same time with an aim to work for the cause of direct selling industry in India. Ever since our inception, IDSA is acting as an interface between the industry and policy-making bodies of the government. Now, like all other industries in India, the wonderful city of Hyderabad and the glorious state of Telangana are one of the most important areas for business for direct selling industry as well. In fact, as per our annual survey 2018-19 for direct selling industry in India, the state of Telangana generated a gross direct selling turnover of over 3,000 million, a number which is growing steadily. Our Honorable Chief Minister of Telangana, Shri K. Chandrasekhar Rao, has given all of us a vision to march the state forward towards the goal of making it Golden Telangana. On behalf of the entire direct selling fraternity, I would like to say the direct selling industry is keen to be a torchbearer of this vision of our Honorable Chief Minister. We sincerely believe that given the potential for direct selling business in the state of Telangana, the Indian direct selling industry can not only emerge as a significant contributor to the state exchequer, but can also provide an opportunity to generate self-income to millions of people. The topic for today's discussion, role of entrepreneurship in self-reliant India, gains particular importance in the present times. The government is working diligently to improve the climate surrounding ease of doing business in India. In a young country like India, it becomes important that our youth is motivated to become job providers rather than job seekers. And thus, I'm confident that today's discussion will give us a broad perspective of what has happened till now and what is going to happen in future. As I mentioned earlier, direct selling industry has been at the forefront of providing self-income generating opportunity to our direct sellers. Advantages like the flexibility of timing, starting business with virtually no investment, ease of operations have made direct selling as a preferred path for embarking on entrepreneur journeys. To represent the views of direct selling industry, I would like to introduce our two special panelists, Sri Ajay Khannaji. Ajay Khannaji is the Vice President and Country Head for Herbalife International India Private Limited. Ajay ji has over 30 years of experience in sales and business development, and prior to joining Herbalife, he has been a part of renowned corporations, multinational corporations like the Xerox Corporation and the IBM. Ajay ji has handled various roles in the sales and business development and has emerged as a true expert in these domains. Throughout this professional journey, Ajay ji has been credited for paving the way for growth throughout this out-of-box thinking. Under his dynamic leadership, Herbalife India has emerged as a premium nutrition company in India, and the company is among the fastest growing entities, not just in globally, but in India as well. Now, Shri Shishir Jha is the General Manager and Country Head for For Life India. He started his professional journey with the telecommunication sector and now has over 22 years of experience dedicatedly in the direct selling industry. Shishir Jha is a firm believer in the philosophy of simplify to multiply. Now, he is known for making the processes as simpler as possible to ensure an increased participation. He firmly believes that it is rather difficult to make processes simpler than to make them complex. Under his able leadership, For Life in India has been successfully creating a niche for itself in the field of protein sciences. So, with this, I would now hand over back to Sanjay to take the meeting forward.
Thank you, Chetan, and thank you, Kavita, for all this elaborate, introduction for our distinguished panelists. Great to know their achievements, and we are going to have a very good discussion today. So I'm going to just give you a momentum for the talk which we are going to have today. And I have shared some of these things with you, but I will just convey it to our audience so that they know that where and what we are trying to talk about. Entrepreneurship has been a major taboo in India for an exceptionally long time. Apart from family-owned businesses, rarely anyone in the family encouraged the young people to do something of their own. However, in last 2 decades, an increasingly high number of youths are now inclined towards being their own boss. So, what were the key factors that resulted in this fundamental shift in our country is something which we would like to hear from all our panelists. Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, during his address to the nation, stressed upon the need of Atmanirbhar Bharat on May 12, 2020, or the Self-Reliant India as we call it. How important is the role of new age entrepreneurs in fulfillment of this vision? The one stark difference between India and China is the fact that the Chinese startups outside China are only 16 compared to 227 in China. Whereas in India, Against 21 unicorns in India, we have about 40 startups in other countries. Clearly, a greater number of the Indians prefer starting their own ventures outside India compared to Chinese people. So, what are the main reasons for this, and what are the suggestions which we can give to the government to improve this part? One of the issues concerning the new startups is the exit strategy. Majority of the startups look forward of being acquired by another company or by a private equity rather than going public on their own. So eventually we see majority of startups untimely becoming a part of an already established corporate or a company, and thus defeats the purpose behind entrepreneurships and creation of jobs, etc. Why and what do you feel is the this mindset can be changed? Economic nationalism, which has now started to take a center stage in India, should be handled as combining economy and nationalism is a double-edged sword, and can have both good as well as bad impact. So we'd like to hear your views on that. Today, the five panelists are representing all parts of the society in terms of entrepreneurship and business. We have a representation from the government, none other than Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, who has been at the helm of the affairs for creating entrepreneurship platforms and environment in the state of Telangana. We have Mr. Shishir Jha, whom I heard is doing a great job in terms of corporate side. We have Mr. Ajay Khanna, who is representing a company which is into direct selling and creating a lot of jobs for the people who can be self-reliant on themselves. We have Mr. Venkatraman, who is, I will call it, an entrepreneur, a sort of an entrepreneur, and has created something from rural India, which I personally believe is going to give the biggest boom to the GDP in the coming years in India. And then when we have one of the blue chip corporates of India, represented by Sainath, who create a lot of job, and more than 20,000 people are still employed with them. So we would like to hear from all of you. Who will like to go first? And what we are going to do, we are going to have 15 minutes given to each of the panelists, and they can talk about their views about the questions which I have posed or something which they have on their own. Who will like to go first? Shishir, Ajay?
Sanjay ji, let me take this lead, and it's
Great.
a pleasure to be here. Good
Good.
evening to everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here with the esteemed panel here, and also the viewers, and also Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji being on this webinar with us, seminar with us. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank Shri Jayesh Ranjan ji on behalf of IDSA for the continued support he has been providing, and the full cooperation towards the direct selling industry in the state of Telangana. And it's good to know that the direct selling industry continues to grow uninterruptedly in the state, and I'm sure that with his support and with the government support in Telangana, the direct selling industry will continue to increase its footprint in the state's economic progress. So, Sanjay, coming to your point of the various questions which you raised, let me try and attempt and answer this. When we talked about entrepreneurship has been a major taboo in India, exceptionally for a long time. I think it's a very, very relevant question. Having said that, we are one of the youngest major economies in the world today. And I think this is also a strong driver for towards entrepreneurship. We have a generation of youth who are driven to find new solutions to the same challenges and limited resources. I think I also strongly believe that entrepreneurship requires a certain ecosystem that favors rapid growth, strong macroeconomic and microeconomic climate, scalable technology, okay, and favorable policies, and last but not the least, a government that supports innovation and places it at the heart of the economic growth. We talked about direct selling industry, and this industry, as you heard from Chetan, also is now offering a highly regulated environment for micro entrepreneurship, and has enabled substantial business opportunities. We all know the cost of entry, the structured training and support and clear targets are a great, incubator to hone one's entrepreneurial skills. And over the last couple of years or past few years, initiatives such as the Startup India, Make in India, and Atmanirbhar Bharat have also redefined the ease of doing business from a governance perspective. And when you mentioned about our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji, during his address, how important is this opinion, and it's going to be the role of the new age entrepreneurs to fulfillment of his vision? Well, I feel that the new age entrepreneurs are key to the fulfillment of this vision. The Atmanirbhar Bharat is a call to all entrepreneurs to come together and build a strong India. The new age, entrepreneurs today belong to the Gen Y and the Gen Z demography. We are seeing approximately 65% of our distributors in Herbalife, globally from Gen Y and Gen Z segments, and they have the ability to redefine traditional and native platforms such as Ayurveda. And we all know Ayurveda is very synonymous to India, a 3,000-year-old, science, So it meets the highest global standards. So these are some of my few, ideas. I'll pass it on to somebody else to say a few words also, and share their, experience on this and views.
So may I request Mr. Venkatraman to take it from here? Voice. You have to on your mic. Chetan, can you help him? Chetan, can you please help him?
I think it's Chetan there on the call.
Can you unmute yourself, sir? Venkatraman.
Mr. Venkatraman has to unmute himself.
I did that. Sorry. Good evening, Sanjay ji, and good evening, Jayesh ji. I think he does not need any introduction for people who are in Telangana. Everybody knows about him. And thank you, co-panelists. So I represent the agriculture industry, and most of us, while we talk about farmers, one thing which we don't realize is there are entrepreneurs in themselves who take the biggest risk in their lives. 110 million standalone entrepreneurs are the ones who are actually helping us to secure our food needs. I mean, that is the kind of an industry which I represent, agriculture. And some of you who would not know, let me tell you that Telangana is known actually as the seed capital of India. I mean, and it has been, and it has only been nurtured further. So I represent a company which is basically, a company which one of the private equity funds has invested in it. This is actually going through its second phase of funding. It was a 20-year-old company, but has changed hands, and we are on the version 2 of the journey. And we deal largely with the seeds which are into cotton, millet, mustard, hybrid rice, and host of other vegetables. So we are basically a plant science company engaged in research, production, and marketing of seeds. So I think on this entrepreneurship bit, I think the first question what Sanjay ji, that there is also a context to it. While we all have seen, the entrepreneurship mindset or, many startups coming up, people willing to take a chance in the last 2 decades, there is a certain context. Let me tell you, I mean, some of us who are, 50 plus and all, what was the basic objective when we actually graduated from our colleges? I mean, secure a government job and then life will be okay. So some of us at that point of time actually looked at private And I could still see a lot of resistance when I actually left a government job and took a private assignment. So that is actually the transition from private. Then people started taking much more risk, and then starting this whole entrepreneurship journey. So it also depends. One is in terms of while enablement and certain other aspects are there, opportunities, risk taking and all. It has also got to do with the way India evolved itself. Today, probably our kids are much more willing to take a risk and then trying to take their ideas forward compared to what we would have done, and obviously from the earlier thing. So one of the fundamental things is the way the Indian economy evolved and the way the Indian overall the income levels, and of course then the opportunities and the enablement and all started. That actually encouraged a lot of entrepreneurship. For a person like me, I would never have. I have worked in large multinational companies, and I would never have taken a chance. But today, that kind of a confidence is there that yes, today's India would welcome these kind of opportunities. So I have joined a PE-led company, which this is a kind of a startup where we are trying to build our business, and hopefully in the next 10 years or so, we will obviously create some value for all the stakeholders in the whole thing. So I think if I look at myself, some of these factors, are ones which are helping us to take a risk in terms of enablement, in terms of opportunity, and obviously there is some sense of a security, and there is also an acceptance of a failure in the society. I mean, obviously, if you fail today, nobody is going to say, "Oh, you started something and you failed." Today, people are welcoming. That was not there. Let us all accept the fact that that was not there probably 20, 25 years back. You were actually typecasted in the society. People look down upon you and all. So that is basically one of the things which I would say, apart from what Mr. Ajay has talked about the other factors. Society, the way it is looking at has changed, and obviously there's nothing. The second one, what Mr. Sanjay ji has asked about this question about the whole Atmanirbhar and the self-reliant India. Yes, it's very, very important. It is very important, extremely important for us in the field in which we are in, because agriculture and food security are so important. Because obviously, nations which can't secure their food needs, and if they go out, there are multiple other complications, and we have seen this in the COVID times when some of the countries who could not secure their food needs obviously had to go through multiple challenges. So it is much, much more important. And I think we have seen a lot of resurgence in agri startups, people who are working on different aspects of value chain in terms of market linkages, in terms of solving some of the issues of the farmers in terms of their advisory and all. So probably I don't remember, there are some 600 agri or 700 agri startups which have actually taken up, leveraging the digital mediums and leveraging some of the existing things both in mechanization as well as digitization, and as well as in the kind of an industry we are in, there are multiple seed companies and small crop protection companies, crop nutrition companies which have actually started their journey. So I think that is again one of the things which has, and rightly so, because we are a country which probably around 75% are dependent on agriculture directly or indirectly, and to feed a population of 1.3 billion and which is growing, this will always be evergreen for the startup culture. The third one, which is a slightly tricky question about why the startups go and merge into larger companies or go and picked up by some other private equity. Yeah, obviously we are going through this journey. As we are into the 3-year-old journey now, we are saying, okay, by the 7th year or the 8th year, what is that we should do? IPO as a route, what Sanjay ji is talking about is actually a very valid this thing where obviously the job creation does not suffer. But let me tell you, Sanjay ji, from my experiences, even if you get picked up, until unless you get picked up by a large multinational and the host of synergies, actually there are job losses and job multiplication. But strategic investments, even if they happen through whichever funds and all, they basically actually try to create a job creation. Well, an IPO is of course the most ideal thing, but there are a lot of technicalities in it. I'm not saying it is not. Probably as a company we are also evaluating that kind of an option. The last one, and let me just try to attempt it. This whole nationalism, economic nationalism, Atmanirbhar is good. I'm not saying we should not be self-reliant, but I think probably in a global village we can't retract now. We have to collaborate. We will have something, and the other party will have something, and together only we can find solutions. Probably, I mean, if I talk about my domain, to address the food security of the growing population globally, which is around 9 billion and all. So I'm completely for an Atmanirbhar Bharat, But the Atmanirbharta has to be defined in a manner where there is an element of collaboration, because no single nation or no single company can find solutions for everything. So to that extent, I think that bit of an openness which is there, because that is the last question, the whole economic nationalism. If every country tries to do that, they should do. They should, probably address their job needs, address their. But I think the whole aspect of collaboration, I don't think we should miss that. If that is something which is missing, probably we will have problem finding solutions. So these are some of my thoughts to start with, and then I can take that. Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request Mr. Shishir Jha to take it forward with his views?
Thank you so much, Sanjay. And I'm really privileged to be in this panel where Ms. Jayesh Ranjan is there, who has been leading it from the front, and such an illustrious career. And thank you and welcome to all my co-panelists. I think the points raised both by Ajay and Venkat are very relevant, because I feel that last 20 years, we have traveled quite a distance. And if you ask me why this transition has taken place, I think there are three reasons which come to my mind. One, the changes have happened at economic and policy level. So that is when government focuses in terms of policy and tries to make things easier for people who want to be into entrepreneurship. The second change has been in terms of infrastructure. I think last 20 years, the way we have developed our infrastructure, whether it is connectivity, roads, electricity, that has given confidence to people who want to establish their own businesses and who want to run their own franchisees. But I think the biggest change has happened, and it has happened at social level. And at one point, Venkat was alluding to it. And I'd like to begin by saying that this happened when our media, television, and internet opened up. Right? Because the moment that happened, there was no barrier of information. Earlier, the information used to get passed in phases. But with these things coming in, whether it is fashion, whether it is product, whether it is a trend, everybody was getting the information at the same time. And when that happened, I think the aspiration levels went up. Now people wanted to, they witnessed what is happening elsewhere, and they wanted to copy that. They wanted to improve their status. They wanted to improve their lifestyles. And when that happened, consumerism went up. The sale of goods, the mindset from savings to investment. Venkat was talking about when we were young at our age, you are either a government servant, a doctor, an engineer, or useless. Right? But when these things started opening up, then people realized that there are other things to be done. And when aspiration goes up, then you want to earn more income. And people wanted to have additional source of income. And I think that is where, if you track how direct selling has developed over a period of last 20 years, direct selling has been able to provide that additional source of income. We don't say that you leave one job and do this. We say this is a mechanism which allows you to have more disposable income at your end, so that you can fulfill your desires, you can get into investment, or you can save your money. And that's where I feel over a period of 20 years, as the entrepreneurship has gone up, so has direct selling. Today, we have more than 57 lakh people practicing direct selling business. And it's a low risk business. It helps them achieve their aspirations. And I think this change which has come, savings versus investment, additional income, my ability to respect other professions other than those top 3-4 that I was doing earlier. I think this has been the reason why entrepreneurship has gone up. There is greater awareness and there is greater ease of doing business. Plus, there is a great respect for people who are getting into this field. So when all these things are summed up, you see that the journey has been, it's not been very fast, but it's been very steady. And I can always say that our future is very, very bright, because this generation of people who are coming in, they are wired for entrepreneurship. I mean, we are the youngest nation. I mean, Ajay was talking about it. So we are a young nation. We have a lot of energy and we want to do more. So these are the things which are required for entrepreneurship. So I feel next, I mean, few years are going to be very, very good for us. And what gives me more energy is people like Ms. Jayesh Ranjan, who are they not only understand what is entrepreneurship, but they are the torch bearers from the government side who make the policies to benefit on. So that was, I think, my first view about how things have happened in last 20 years, and I definitely see a very bright future. Now, moving to the second aspect, Sanjay, that you're talking about, how do you link entrepreneurship to Atmanirbhar Bharat? And I think the whole essence of entrepreneurship is to be Atmanirbhar. So there cannot be a better marriage of purposes, as we can see, between Atmanirbharta, self-reliance, and being an entrepreneur. But some inputs which I have is that we have to be very careful that how do we perceive entrepreneurship? Like, to my mind, the way I look at it, I'm in great favor of solution-based entrepreneurship, right? Because we have seen a lot of times that more often than not, few entrepreneurs fail, right? And when I look at the reasons, the best thing which comes to my mind is, have they tried to solve a problem which is more relevant? So one advice, I mean, one thought which I have is, if we have to be Atmanirbhar, we have to be very smart in picking up our issues and providing the right solution. To me, entrepreneurship is not about the scale. So it's not about building bigger factories or a very big business. It's more a question of the mindset. Do I have the mindset of an entrepreneur? And if I have that, then definitely I am satisfied, I am happy, but I am also hungry. And it is this hunger which drives entrepreneurship. I come from an organization which is into direct selling. We deal with people. And I can tell you that every success story that we see has this premise that I have got everything, but I still need more, and I'm ready to work for it. So one thing which is very, very important for us for future is to have a generation which has this mindset of being better than yesterday and being better than today when I get into tomorrow. The next question which comes to my mind is, once I have this mindset, the next task is to choose the vehicle. What should be my model? What should be my business? And that is where possibly I can talk about it with an example. I can get into manufacturing. I can manufacture a product, but I should know that it needs a lot of money. There has to be a lot of policy intervention into it, and it carries a risk that if my product is not successful, then what happens? Second vehicle which I can pick is not getting into manufacturing, but getting into a shop which sells the products being manufactured by someone else. And that is where my investments come down. I have greater flexibility. Or the third option can be, I don't even invest in a shop. I pick up a business where the organization is able to support me for everything that I have to do. They can give me the stocks, they can give me the office, they can make me ready for this. And then I use those resources to build a bigger future, a better future for myself. So one thing where I'd be very careful is, if I have the mindset, then which of these vehicles should I pick up as my choice of an entrepreneurship venture? And of course, the third part and the most important part is you have to act on it. So many times we see that we have great plans. We can do everything on paper, but when it comes to execution, that is where either we step back or we are not able to do it in a good way. So as we become Atmanirbhar, as we travel that distance, we have to be very, very sharp as a country, and I think as individuals, that we pick up the right business for us and we ensure that we work towards its success. Because if that happens, then your third question was on why do people get into mergers? Why do they just go and sell their businesses to some other organization and move out? And to me, there are only two reasons for that. One, the classical debate between value and valuation. Right? A lot of times now the entrepreneurs are talking about valuation, whether or not they create the value. So they want to create fast money and move out and probably get into another venture. And that is a trend which we'll have to see how it goes. But the point that I want to make today is more about the second part, which talks about they have to move out because of execution gaps. And that is where I think government has to play a very big role. Because I normally set up a business for myself, but over a period of time, I'm not able to maintain it. Possibly because of policies, possibly because I was not able to preempt situation, or possibly because of there are a lot of overheads which I had not calculated. So I think that is where government can work on setting up an ecosystem where we have some centralized resource to guide these entrepreneurs, to guide these organizations, so that they start getting generating more value. Because one thing which I believe is entrepreneurship is all about impacting lives. And that is what we have seen in our direct selling business. So if I am a good entrepreneur, I should be able to create value out of the business and impact more lives. And direct selling, I think, is a great, great example where people build up a good team, and they can grow only when they help others grow. So that is the kind of value system which needs to come in. I think that will reduce the cases, not eliminate, where people just want to move from one enterprise to other. They sell it or they merge it with bigger organizations. Because if that cannot be stopped, then you are very right, Sanjay, that the whole essence of entrepreneurship is not being met, because ultimately you are merging into those few biggies, and the space remains wide. So these were my some observations on some of your questions, Sanjay. I guess Sanjay has moved out.
Yeah, I think. I'm back. I just
He's
missed
back.
it in between. So thank you if you have finished, Mr. Jha, on this. And before we go to the main person, Mr. Jay Shanjan, to speak his mind on this, I will request the last one panelist, Mr. Sainath, to share his views, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Principal Secretary, Honorable Shri Jay Ranjan Garu, Mr. Sanjay Kapoor, President HMA, esteemed co-panelists, delegates, members of HMA as well as IDSA. Good evening, everyone, and I am extremely honored and humbled to be representing Lassen & Toubro in this platform. And going by the sequence of the questions or the inputs that have been shared by HMA for today's talk, I would first touch upon that what happened in the last 20 years that has changed the way we look at entrepreneurship. Some of my co-panelists have shared their views. I agree with them on the aspect of mindset. Yes, over the last 20 years, the younger generation has come up with a mindset of being independent, trying to take up greater responsibilities, and perhaps the risk appetite has increased. And that synergized with the advances in technology and digitalization, wherein all the information required for taking up an entrepreneurship or a startup is available. The experiences worldwide is available literally at fingertips. Today we can search any knowledge, any information, any success stories, any lessons from failures of a similar sort of entrepreneurial ideas globally which have happened, and locally also, for us to make a template of the entrepreneurship startup. This is all available over a touch of a smartphone. So technology, information, and knowledge is available in abundant as compared to what it had been about 2 decades ago. In addition to that, certainly government policies, it goes without saying, without government policies, certainly entrepreneurs and startups would not be encouraged. Like in the state of Telangana now, in its formative years or the last 6 years, there has been phenomenal thrust. The government has identified key thrust areas. There were about 14 thrust areas which have been identified for entrepreneurs and MSMEs to give it a push. Like I take care of the business development and marketing responsibility of defense for Larsen & Toubro and Hyderabad. So I'm very privy of the fact how the defense industry is growing around in Telangana and in Hyderabad. And thanks to the government policies today and the existence of the PSU, defense PSUs in Hyderabad, the existence of the DRDO labs in Hyderabad, Hyderabad is often told as the missile center of the country. About 1,000 plus MSMEs in the defense industry have grown up around Hyderabad in the state of Telangana. And today, we deliver about 15 to 20% of deliverables required for defense pan-India from the state of Telangana, which itself is a small state compared to about all the states that we have. 20% of coverage of defense deliverables from MSMEs is coming thanks to very, very progressive policies from the state government of Telangana. So one, the mindset, agreeing with the other panelists, technology and the digitalization certainly has helped entrepreneurs to pick up. 3, government policies, and 4, very importantly, are the banking reforms. These days, if we have to make an investment upfront, I feel getting loans without collaterals or with lesser interest rates is much, much easier as compared to the banking that we had about 20 years ago. So now any young engineer, any MBA graduate, any qualified person who wants to pick up, by virtue of his qualification, it becomes much easier for him to gain a banking loan, and hence this helps him to take that higher risk and getting into the entrepreneurship and thereafter helping the Atmanirbharta. So that is on point 1. Come to the point 2 of Atmanirbharta and staying with this point is that entrepreneurs have a very critical role in making self-reliant India. There are 2 very, very important factors in my view as far as entrepreneurship goes. Is one, entrepreneurs have a higher outreach. Entrepreneurs can reach to the remote locations of the state, of the country, and will be able to involve all sections of the society while they are putting upon their investments as in MSMEs or in startups. And 2, very, very important thing is that MSMEs provide great job opportunities. Phenomenal job opportunities come from entrepreneurships. So on these 2 aspects, MSMEs will become a very, very important pillar, or startups and entrepreneurs become very, very important pillar for Atmanirbharta and self-reliant India. There's a third question on why the startups are merging with larger companies. Is it a good trend? Is it not a very encouraging trend? Yes, if they are in a position to get into IPO, that would have been ideal. However, if we look at startups in 5 years' time or 10 years' time merging, I find that not very wrong. In fact, there are startups which have merged with bigger organizations. L&T had last year acquired Mindtree. It was not a startup, but it itself had been a decade and a half into IT industry. But thereafter, L&T decided to acquire Mindtree, and all the employees of Mindtree have been taken into the ambit and umbrella of Larsen & Toubro. One point to understand why entrepreneurs in their formative years or once they are decently established would like to get merged or are trying to prefer to merge is we are today in a VUCA world. We call this VUCA as in the business operations today are volatile, they are uncertain, they are complex, they are ambiguous. Now, when an entrepreneur gets into a business and makes a startup, forms and establishes for about 5 years, he has to certainly have a vision for a longer term. The dynamics because of technology that are happening now are at a much faster rate than what it was 20 years or 40 years ago. The technological advances are super fast. Now, sometimes in our review discussions and presentations, we keep going back to a story of a bridge that has been constructed in Honduras and Caribbean. So this is called as a Choluteca Bridge. This bridge, some of you or the panelists and the members would have studied about it. It's a classical case study of an engineering marvel, a very well architected bridge which was built in the Caribbean to withstand storms and withstand hurricanes. The bridge was made brilliantly. However, once it has been built and about in 2 years' time, there was a huge hurricane of category 5 in the Caribbean. The course of the river underneath the bridge itself has changed. So the playground here has changed. The competitive advantage that these MSMEs provide today may not be relevant to tomorrow. And it does not hold for, say, an MSME or a startup. It also holds for big and established organizations. The dynamics are changing fast. And hence, if an entrepreneur or a startup organization having tasted success after 5 years, and if he has a different vision and views because of this paradigm change or the dynamics that are happening globally, it's nothing wrong in he merging his organization to a more safer organization and embarking upon a new entrepreneurship. I feel that will open out more avenues for the entrepreneur himself as well as for the country and for the state. Now, going into the digital advances, today we can see at a hindsight that electric vehicles and battery operated vehicles are things which are going to come very, very fast. If somebody who has been an entrepreneur with ancillary units or supplies for automobile sector or the conventional automobile, it becomes very important for him to have that foresight that he gets into a business which can take him a longer way. So in 5 years' time or 10 years' time, if we are being washed out by these electrical vehicles, then his spare parts and ancillary units, his manufacturing setup may become redundant. A similar thing in the manufacturing setups. Now we have additive manufacturing, which is 3D printing, is also coming up in a big way globally. So manufacturing units of raw materials need to be very, very careful looking at these sorts of paradigm changes that are going to come globally, whether they can withstand. Their customers will be still interested to take the same sort of supplies from them in 5 years down the line. If they find that there are too many challenges going ahead, then I think they need to take an appropriate decision so that they maneuver their risks and they reduce their risks and in turn take upon new assignments. So as far as that question with regards to merging upon with a bigger entity, I find it, my view, I find it not very wrong. It may perhaps help him to take up new assignments and challenges. On the socio-economic front, yes, entrepreneurs have a big role to play. That's what I tried to explain in terms of balancing the economy as well as in terms of generation of huge employment. And I strongly feel that all crisis scenarios will provide new opportunities. And COVID had been one crisis. It has been an unprecedented crisis, and it had provided us a lot of new opportunities and avenues. Now, the work from home concept or the studies at home concept has all come all of new. 2020 has given us a lot many lessons thanks to COVID. Over the last 20 years, the aviation sector has boomed like anything globally, not alone in India, globally. Now, the aviation sector is seen as sudden roadblock. With aviation sector booming, we felt that the globe is shrinking, the world is shrinking. But today, with the avenues that have emerged post-COVID and the new scenarios of digitalization which has come up, we find the world at our doorstep. Today, we may not be required to step out of our doorstep to go to offices. We can work from home. Children need not to go to schools. They can study at home. We have all the provisions, all the groceries, everything at a fingertip reaching at our door. In fact, other requirements for entertainment, for movies, for hospitals, everything is available while we are at home. That's the sort of impact which digitalization has caused, or which technology has caused. And thankfully, there is only one silver lining among this COVID that I view is that today, because of the digitalization, because economies are powered and driven by technology, we were able to withstand this sort of an impact which the COVID has created. Had this scenario happened about 10 years back, it would have been a very, very difficult challenge. I'm not sure whether all these things would have been in place by then. So I feel there is a socio-economic revolution which is happening. The entrepreneurs will take a much higher responsibility in Atmanirbharta and in self-reliance. There is another interesting question which has come up as one of the input from HMA, was on why Chinese entrepreneurs, we have higher number of entrepreneurs investing in China as compared to outside China, as compared to the percentage of entrepreneurs who are investing in India as compared to outside. I feel that things are changing. As on today, in most of the figures and in statistics, we find China, let us admit, ahead of us in terms of number. But however, things are drastically changing, are changing for the good, and India, a self-reliant economy and an Atmanirbhar economy, we wish that over the next 10 years' time that these numbers will move upside down, and we as in India also will see much higher numbers which are comparable, if not exceeding the numbers that China has projected. So these are my initial views. We'll take further views as we go ahead.
Thank you very much, Sainath. And before, I know that other panelists want to speak few other things, but before we come to that, we will like to hear the final word and the word of the Telangana government through the voice of Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. So, sir, you are welcome to speak on this particular topic now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kapoor. Good evening, fellow panelists, and good evening to members in the audience. First of all, let me appreciate all the other panelists for putting forward some very incisive, very insightful, and very relevant points. I completely endorse whatever they have said, but I will try to share my thoughts on a related perspective, but a different perspective, on how does one build a culture of entrepreneurship and culture of innovation. See, normally when Mr. Kapoor, when you were giving your opening remarks, you spoke about a few other countries. For example, China has so many homegrown unicorns, while India does not have. And India also does not stand very favorably in comparison vis-a-vis, let us say, the US, UK, even a small country like Israel or Singapore, and so on and so forth. On many of these entrepreneurship parameters, innovation parameters, they stand much ahead of our country. So obviously, we can't deny that there is no talent in our country. In fact, if you look at the innovation drivers in the US, you will find that a majority of them are actually of Indian origin. People of Indian origin are doing some very cutting edge work. So it is not to say that India has no talent pool at all, and all of us are testimonies that this is not true. So why is it that the kind of things which happen in these countries does not happen in our country? And if you dive deeper into it, the obvious answer will be that we lack the culture of innovation, culture of entrepreneurship. So as a government, what can we do? And let me very directly give you Telangana story. Instead of speaking hypothetically or conveying something which some scholar has written in some book and giving a nice concept, I don't want to do that. I want to tell you what actually we have done, how we have approached this whole issue of building the culture of entrepreneurship, and what successes we have got. So Let me share this with you that when the state of Telangana came into being, I'm sure all of you know this, that the state came into being in June 2014. It's a new state. And the leadership of the state was absolutely driven. Actually, in some ways, they were possessed by this belief that we have to be different as compared to the other newer states which were formed in 2001. So 13 years ago. I mean, from 2014 to 2001, 13 years ago. As all of us know, I don't want to name any state, but the last time new states were created in 2001. And if you look at what those three states have achieved, there is not much to write home about. I mean, out of politeness, we say that they are still developing states, they're emerging states, but in reality, we know that there is nothing further which will emerge there. There is nothing else that will develop there. They have kind of plateaued at a very mediocre kind of level. So, Mr. Jha should not feel offended. He may be perhaps from one of the states, but nevertheless, the reality is that those states have not really delivered anything very, very kind of noteworthy. So this is something which was driving the leadership in Telangana also, that after so much of struggle, so much of agitation, we have got this new state, but we should not go down the same path. It should not be seen as a, a wasted effort or a failed effort, and so on and so forth. So why I'm telling all this long story is that immediately after Telangana was formed, within a week, incidentally, a very major visioning exercise was carried out. It was carried out in the premises of the Indian School of Business. ISB, as you would know, has its campus here. So we sat in ISB, we gathered lots of academicians, lots of domain experts. Some of us from the government were there, our minister was there. And we asked opinion on what can we do. And I remember our minister using a very interesting phrase, and I would like to share this. See, normally if we are in a hurry, if we want to achieve something fast, we use a phrase that we should fast track it, or we should, so it gives a sense that I want to move fast. Sometimes when there is a greater sense of urgency, we use another expression which is called leapfrog. So fast tracking is not enough. We should, like a frog, we should kind of jump ahead. But our minister used a third phrase, which is even more interesting. He said that we should pole vault. So it is not just fast tracking, it is not just leapfrogging. I want to, as you know, in pole vault, you jump maybe 10 times your height or maybe 12 times your height. So that was the intention, that I want to really accelerate like never before. The speed of our activities must be extremely fast and extremely rapid. So when the experts heard these kind of sentiments, these kind of impressions, they told us one thing, that first of all, you have to use technology, because if you want to really pole vault, technology will be your biggest aid. And the second thing which you told was that in these days, particularly in the last 10 years, last decade or so, some of the most transformative technology, some of the most breakthrough technology has come from the world of entrepreneurs. Not to mean that large corporations are not doing anything, universities are not doing anything, research institutions are not doing anything. They continue to do what they're supposed to do. But much more and much bigger things are being done by young entrepreneurs or startups, as we call them. So the experts also told us that our state should become extremely embracing of entrepreneurship, of innovation. We should work in that direction. So since then, since 2014 till now, in the last 6 years, we have gone on this particular route in a very methodical way. And I can, now that 6 years have gone by, I can look back, I can think what we did, and I can kind of put some structure around it. And the structure that I want to put around is like this. So first of all, what we have done is that we have come out with a very comprehensive and a very practical and a very implementable policy. See, if the government is serious about doing something, first of all, your intent has to be known, that you are serious about it. And that intent document also pins you down. There is an element of accountability. If I promise that I will do something in public, and obviously if I don't do it tomorrow, then you can hold me accountable. You can point fingers at me. So we came up with a very good policy, and you can look it up. If possible, I'll post the link on the chat box. So our innovation, entrepreneurship, startup policy today is quoted in Delhi, in Niti Aayog and the ministries and all, as a role model policy. Because what we did was that in the policy, we have tried to address the actual pain points which entrepreneurs faced. The policies typically in India and elsewhere also, policies are typically very wishful, that I will do this, I will attain that goal, etc., etc. But the Telangana policy for entrepreneurship, innovation, etc., is rooted in reality. What the entrepreneurs actually find it challenging or difficult to navigate, we have tried to give solutions in that policy. So that is one very important thing. The second thing which we did was, and again this is something which people comment about India quite a lot, that there are great policies but nothing translates into action. Policy reads very nicely, it's written in good English, it is printed on a glossy book and with nice pictures and all, but thereafter nothing happens on the ground. So if you actually again evaluate or examine or assess why is it that policies remain on paper, nothing happens on ground, then one very important reason will stare you in your face, and that reason is that no one takes ownership of that policy. It's like a orphan baby. No one kind of bothers that, okay, I've committed these 20 things in the policy, let me find some way of implementing it. So in Telangana, what we did, and this is something very different from other states and also something very unique, is that we created dedicated institutions to implement that policy. And those institutions that were created, there are 7 of them. Of course, in the interest of time, I won't tell you about all those institutions, but maybe as a sample or as an example, I'll give you what 1 or 2 institutions do, and then you will get a sense of why these institutions were created. So we created 7 institutions to implement different aspects of this policy. So let me tell you now itself. So for example, as you know, entrepreneurship today, there is lots of science, there is lots of knowledge behind it. In olden days also, they were entrepreneurs, but typically they were family entrepreneurs. My father is doing some business, I'm also in the same line, I'm observing my father, so I pick some kind of knowledge from him. Let me try my hand into that business. I mean, the whole of 60s, the whole of 70s, the whole of the 80s was run by these kind of entrepreneurs. But now we know that there is lots of science, there's lots of knowledge, there are structured programs to promote entrepreneurship. So what we have done is that we have created incubators. Some of you may have heard about the country's largest tech incubator, which is called T-Hub. Similarly, in another month from now, we'll be launching the country's largest hardware incubator or prototyping incubator, which is called T-Works. Just to maintain diversity and equity and equality, we have created an incubator focused exclusively on women entrepreneurs, which is called V-Hub. Similarly, as all of us know, and many of you have spoken about it also, that entrepreneurship also needs to be encouraged from a young age, from an early age. I mean, you cannot suddenly become an entrepreneur at a late stage. I mean, some people have done that, but ideally there should be a pipeline of entrepreneurship. So our colleges, our institutions, they should promote entrepreneurship. Faculty should be trained in what is entrepreneurship. So we have created an institution which is called TASK, the Telangana Academy of Skills and Knowledge. They actually, all the colleges of Telangana are empaneled with TASK, and TASK conducts faculty boot camp, students challenge programs, and so on and so forth. We have now decided to go below colleges and run programs for school also. In fact, just before this webinar, I spent almost an hour participating in a webinar in which student innovators were showcasing some products they have thought of for the COVID management. And it was very, very fascinating. Children of class 9, class 8, with very little engineering background and so on, are giving such sophisticated and such refined kind of ideas and thoughts, etc. So that was again something very heartening. We know that in Telangana, as also is true of other states and cities, there is lots of native wisdom. In a derogatory way, we call that as jugaad, that if there is a problem, we find some quick fix solution. But if you really evaluate what those solutions are, you will again realize that there is lots of thinking, lots of science, lots of knowledge in that. So we have created another institution called the State Innovation Cell, which identifies these kind of innovators in rural areas. And again, we have interesting programs. We have a program which in Telugu is called Inter Innovator. I mean, for the benefit of Mr. Jha and Mr. Khanna, this and of course Mr. Kapoor, Inter Innovator means हर घर में innovator है. हर घर में कोई ना कोई है जो कि किसी प्रॉब्लम को सॉल्व कर सकता है. बट किस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है, वो ये है कि उनको कैसे बाहर निकाला जाए, उनको कैसे ढूंढा जाए और उनको कैसे encourage किया जाए. So this is again a program which is running very successfully, and some very innovative grassroots level ideas have come. There is in Hyderabad, as some of you will know, we have amazing institutions for R&D, which are international institutions, national institutions. They are we have the best agri R&D institutions. We have the best defense R&D institutions. We have the best life sciences R&D institutions. But typically what happens is that the doors of these institutions remain closed to prospective entrepreneurs. Suppose I get some idea. You spoke about how the defense ecosystem is so robust, lots of innovative defense work happens. Of course, it happens in the DRDO labs and all those R&D institutions. But in the past, the doors of these institutions were not open to an entrepreneur. Suppose I have some idea about some missile technology. It will be a Herculean task for me to knock on the doors of DRDO or DRDL and tell them that this is my idea. Can you validate it? Can you test it? So we have created another institution which is called RICH, RICH, Research and Innovation Circle of Hyderabad. And what RICH does is that if an entrepreneur has some scientific idea which requires collaboration with one of these institutions, we open the doors for them. So like this, 7 institutions have been created and each of them promotes some element of entrepreneurship. So this is the second remarkable thing about Telangana. We have a great policy, we have created institutions, and the third bit which I'm talking about is equally important. Now, what happens is that a few other governments, a few other public sector bodies also create institutions. But where the government fails or the government kind of disappoints is that it holds the belief that you have all the knowledge and wisdom within yourself. The government is the repository of all knowledge, the government is the repository of all wisdom, and therefore I can run all these institutions. In Telangana, right from day one, we have not believed in this dictum. Our belief is that there is better talent which is available outside the government, and the government should bring that talent and make them run these institutions in a completely autonomous and professional way. So these 7 institutions I spoke about, each of them are run by market professionals whom we have taken on board in the government. So I'll give you an example. I told you about T-Hub. Let me tell you about the T-Hub CEO. T-Hub actually has 2 CEOs. I mean, the second CEO is right now on. The first CEO worked for 3 years and then he moved on. So let me talk about the first CEO. But the second CEO's story is more or less the same. He's in position right now, so maybe it will not be polite on my part to talk about him so openly. But I can talk about the first CEO. So the first CEO has a very good academic background. He studied in one of the IITs. He went to the US, he did his master's, he did his PhD. He's a semiconductor guy. He worked in some of the topmost semiconductor companies. He worked in Cisco, he worked in Juniper. And then he felt that he should come out and do his own things. So he had his first startup, which did not do well. He had his second startup, which also did not do well. But his third startup was an enormous success. He was bought over. I mean, his company got acquired at a huge valuation. One of you spoke about valuation. He had a great exit. And I can tell this to you. I mean, without knowing anything much about you, I can tell you, of course, I will exclude Sajjaji, that he is wealthier than all 5 of us put together, excluding Sanjayji, because he's much richer than anyone else. But excluding him, the T-Hub CEO is wealthier than all 5 of us put together. I can tell this for sure. Of course, IDSA members are also extremely wealthy, so I'll remove them also. But anyway, the point which I'm making is that he's extremely wealthy. He doesn't need to work, frankly speaking, that to take a government job. The least of the things that a person of his wealth can do is to join the government at some 3 lakhs rupees, 4 lakhs rupees and all that. But he's not bothered about the 3 lakhs rupees or 4 lakhs rupees that I gave him. He's more passionate or more committed towards promoting young entrepreneurs, promoting young innovators, giving them that kind of mentorship, guidance. So he's driven by that passion. And then he came to us, he worked with us for 3 years. He's still connected with us, but someone else has taken over who is equally bright and equally dynamic. So each of these 7 institutions that we have is led by one of such industry domain experts who have decided to come to the government and work for the government, but we have given them complete autonomy, complete freedom to run. So my point is that the governments need to today promote a culture of entrepreneurship. See, entrepreneurs don't just drop from the sky like a miracle. And when you say that China has hundreds and we have only a dozen, this is the reason. Not to say that our people are inferior to the Chinese in any way. We are equally talented or maybe more talented. But because of the lack of entrepreneurial culture around us, we decide to just follow the beaten track, get into a profession, get into a job, and our talent, our ability to do much more gets dissipated. So this is the point which I wanted to tell you. And again, I also wanted to tell you that in Telangana, we have figured out this puzzle. If you want to create a culture of innovation, this is the way in which one goes about it. And I do hope that while it is 6 years, so 6 years is not a very short period of time, but still I would like to test this hypothesis and this model for another maybe 5 years, 10 years. And once we establish that this is the mantra for creating the culture of entrepreneurship through which hundreds and thousands and millions of entrepreneurs will loop, then the country will definitely go on the right track. So thanks very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts.
So pleasure is all ours. Thank you very much. And before we get into the second part, I have a request to all the viewers that if they have any questions, please put them on the Facebook chat, and we will take some of those questions with the distinguished panelist here. I know, Mr. Khanna, you took very less time when you opened the remarks, so I'll give you another chance. If you have to add something on that, please go ahead and say whatever you have to say.
No, thank you, Sanjay. Thank you so much. It was so inspiring to listen to my colleagues, Shishir, Sainath, Venkat, and of course, to Jayesh Ranjanji, and when I was listening to the conversation, I was just wondering, I think we are our biggest competitor. We need to measure our progress by how far we have progressed as a nation and how far we need to go. All countries today, they operate within a very unique framework with a very unique set of challenges, and different development needs are there. Sanjay, you quoted something in the second question was about the unicorns in China and all. I just want to quote a few numbers from Niti Aayog. And, as I mentioned earlier, that, over 65% of our country is under the age of 35 years, We have more than 1.4 million schools and 10,500 engineering and related institutions, and almost a whopping 39,000 colleges and universities. And I, refer to Jayesh Ranjanji's quote, innovation, we have to take that step forward. And when I see these numbers in the past decade, the growth of 180 billion US dollars for IT and IT services and biotech industry in India have proven India's scientific, engineering, and technology proneness and capabilities. And when we look at the direct selling industry, this direct selling industry is growing. And as Chetan had shared earlier, it continues to grow. It gives that opportunity for entrepreneurship. It gives an opportunity for innovation. When I look at Herbalife Nutrition, we operate in almost 90 plus countries, and that's where, you can interact with different colleagues and different entrepreneurs and learn from their cultures, learn their ways of doing business and other things, which you can learn from them. And specific to India, with one of the fastest growing startup ecosystems, which are over 30,000 startups and 250 incubators. And in these numbers lie our true potential. So just think about this. Any solution which is developed for almost, which is developed for 1.3 billion people has the power to be possible solution for 7+ billion people on the planet. And as Jayesh Ranjanji said that, there is a lot of talent in India, and we have the power, and nothing can stop India to be the leader in a lot of fields. And when you spoke about economic nationalism, economic nationalism is a key for India to build a solid foundation that will sustain its growth through times of global inequality and uncertainty. And especially the recent times have reminded us that there are circumstances and events outside the control of local governments that can break global supply chains and throw a spanner into international trade. We have to be self-reliant to be able to meet the basic requirements of the common man. And India has the potential to be a unicorn, and we should not have to depend externally to meet demands of food, nutrition, and other basic requirements. I mean, as one of my colleagues said earlier, the future is really bright, and I strongly believe that the future is actually really bright. There's a lot of talent in India. I mean, that's just what I wanted to share. And thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sanjay.
Thank you. So, listening to all of you, I have got some thoughts, and I thought I'll put it in question form to you, and try to get some answers to you. One of the things which I really liked when Mr. Jayashanjan was talking about, he talked about three things: culture, policy, and creating institution. I think whether it's a corporate, whether it is a state, city, or a country, these are the very, very important three aspects. And that's primarily the reason that under his leadership and with the blessings of the minister here, Telangana stands out certainly on the entrepreneur side. But I always feel, and I think some of those points were touched by Mr. Jayashanjan in terms of catching the young at the school level and also creating some kind of an entrepreneur task force involving the universities and students there. But do you think that there are any other ways where Gen X or Gen Y can be particularly encouraged to join the agri innovations? Because if I remember long back in 1960s or 70s, civil engineering used to be the boom, and every person wanted to be a civil engineer because that was the way of the things. And about 35 years back, it was all about information technology. And that led to the larger entrepreneurship type of things which is happening. And most of this entrepreneurship is happening into the technology area. But I feel, and this is my personal feeling, that agriculture has got tremendous amount of potential. And with this COVID area, many other people are thinking of living a very different kind of life where they want to be self-reliant even on the agriculture part. So is there a way that we can look into it? And I will like to pose that question to each one of you, but more specifically first to Mr. Venkatraman and then to Mr. Jayashanjan on that. Yes, Mr. Venkatraman.
Yeah, I think Sanjay ji gave very good opportunity. Primarily, as I was telling earlier too, if you have to meet the food and the nutrition needs, obviously agriculture is something which you can't, do away with. What we have been witnessing as practicing managers across the country, from a hobby kind of, farming by some of the city-bred guys, today it has actually become a serious stuff in terms of, leveraging technologies, growing some exotic crops and stuff like that. But that is more on the, urban part of it. At the rural side, I mean, we are talking so much about the gig force and all in the urban parlance. There is the existence of that. Probably these terms are coined now. You would see a lot of guys on the countryside who are actually, working and bringing out their own solutions. I'm not talking about the high-tech solutions of digital and mechanization and all, but they, in their own way. So that is an opportunity which, most of us, we are actually trying to leverage who are basically in this sector. And surely we are also seeing a renewed interest in the, most of the agri startups and the problem solving is not all actually happening only from the agriculture graduates. Today, a lot of IIT guys and related stuff, they are actually trying to problem solve. And let me tell you, disruption actually happens from outside and not from inside. So these are the people who are asking some questions and they are trying to actually problem solve. I see a huge opportunity in that. And since Jayesh ji is here, and as I was telling you, Telangana is the seed capital of India, and they are actually encouraging a lot of it. I think a month back, I think Mr. Harish Rao had a meeting with most of the agri tech companies, and then we're figuring out what is the kind of an encouragement which is needed to make Telangana a very robust seed capital, as also some of the other agri startups. So I see a huge opportunity, and definitely COVID has actually changed the way people were looking at agriculture. And I can tell you from my experiences, not only here, but in the other parts of Asia, agriculture was kind of, I would not say not a big attention, but it was not taken as seriously as post-COVID when people wanted to secure their food needs and all. So huge opportunity, and we are seeing a huge result. Only thing is that how do you make it more attractive for the youth? How do you encourage youth to join, agriculture and all? But we are actually seeing it because I meet a lot of startups. Most of these young guys are actually techies who would not have actually done agriculture anytime, but they're very, very passionate and then, wanting to problem solve some of the issues. So, yeah,
I think
we
you
will see
touched upon a very important point, and I come back to that thing about culture, policy, and creating institutions. So, JSG, do you think that there is a need, or maybe the government can do something where young people can be made more enthusiastic, and also they see the money in converting their ideas and getting into the agriculture side?
Yes, definitely. The trends in the last few years are definitely very encouraging. And as all of us would know, this remains a very important national priority also. Our Prime Minister, the present Prime Minister, his predecessor, both of them have on many occasions mentioned this, that doubling farmers' income is a very important national goal, because prosperity and distributed prosperity will only come when people who are involved in agriculture, they also they also benefit. Right now, uh, many things are happening at the national level, but again I will give you examples of Telangana. uh, I'm sure you know this, that our state has invested quite a lot in creating irrigation potential, or in adding irrigation potential. In fact, new projects have been taken even bigger than the erstwhile projects of, let us say, the Bhakra Dam or the Hirakud Dam and things like that. What used to be called as temples of modern India in the 50s by Nehru. Some of that kind of work has been replicated in a historic way in Telangana. So our water availability, irrigation potential has gone up drastically, and it has impacted both the production as well as productivity. So now our state is very keen that now that the enabling environment or the enabling conditions have been created, the returns of increased production, increased productivity should go directly into the hands of the farmers. And I spoke to you earlier when I was mentioning the Telangana story. I told you that how we were advised that we should be technology enabled and how we should encourage entrepreneurship. So all that is now figuring place in the agriculture sector also. We have actually identified, uh, we have prepared a kind of a resource book, so which speaks about, or which highlights all possible technological solutions that are available related to different aspects of the agriculture value chain. So right from the time when you have to procure seeds, prepare your farm, do the sowing, do the pest management, do the farm operations, your harvesting, storage, post-harvesting, taking it to the market, every aspect of this agriculture value chain has been mapped with relevant technologies. And again, it is very heartening to share that many of these technologies have come from the world of young innovators, young startups. So, see, the issue is that an innovator or an entrepreneur, he need not be a farmer himself. What we require of him is that he must be sensitive to the pressing problems around us. And if the problem of the farming community or the farm stakeholders are the most pressing, an astute entrepreneur would like to get into that area, because that is where he will have the highest satisfaction of seeing change happen, seeing results come, and of course, there'll be monetary returns for him. So many bright entrepreneurs are into the world of agriculture. They are supporting through different kinds of technologies, innovation in that area. And Telangana's work in technology-enabled agriculture is receiving lots of recognition. We have been able to work with lots of partners on board, very credible national level institutions, technology companies, think tanks, academic institutions, and so on and so forth. So definitely agriculture is a very fertile area and also a very needed area for entrepreneurship and innovation to flow into.
Thank you, sirs. I think my next question is related to e-commerce, something which has boomed and probably the biggest booming industry in the COVID times. And it is something which I'm sure that direct sellers like Mr. Jha and Mr. Khanna will be looking at. Is there a way that you can use such kind of platforms to improve your businesses and put more generation of jobs for it? So my question goes to Mr. Jha on that particular aspect.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. And the way things are going, e-commerce is definitely the way to a very, very big direct selling potential and direct selling business in India. Because what has happened is this pandemic has made us travel 5 years in 3 months. Right? The way we were challenged and the way organizations and people have come out with the solutions. I think that talks a lot about the possibilities. Jayesh ji was talking about culture, policy, and the institution. I think if I look at it from e-commerce perspective, yes, the culture is definitely there and it will thrive. Policy is where we have to really work on. And if I talk about direct selling, I think it's a business which works with very little control. People are free to take their decisions. People are free to take their own ways to build a business. So policy is where we really need support from the government, especially in terms of how the business is being done online. Then comes how do we institutionalize it? So I'm sure, like Ajay was talking, and I can talk about 4Life. We give a lot of weightage to e-commerce. We include e-commerce in practically all our trainings, in all our meetings and seminar, and we are seeing tremendous results out of it. And I am sure the results are not any different in Herbalife, or for that matter, any other legit direct selling company. So from an organization perspective, from an industry perspective, e-commerce has tremendous potential, and we are very eager to capitalize on that. A little bit of support from government on filtering the legal and ethical aspects of it. Because one thing which we have to be careful with e-commerce is it's limitless. So you can go out to anybody with minimum filters. So the policies and the guidelines of government should filter out people who are unethical and illegal. And definitely then this has immense potential, Sanjay. So we give a lot of weightage to e-commerce. We give a lot of weightage to skilling our people. Because direct selling is, as I said, 57 lakh people involved in this business. So skilling becomes one of our major agenda, and we are giving a lot of focus to e-commerce only because we see a huge potential there.
Okay. Thank you. Before we get into the question answer, which I'm getting from the various viewers, I have a last question, and for that I will ask the question to everybody. And this is a little hard one, so kindly bear with me. We had this Make of India, and now we have Self-Reliant India. Make of India probably did not take that much kind of impetus and success. What is your individual view that Self-Reliant India is going to really go and take the boom from here? So I will start with Mr. Venkat first. Just in 30 seconds, if you can just say what you want to say on that.
I'm optimistic about it, Sanjay ji. And anyway, in our industry, we do a lot of things which is localized, but do partner with companies across. So I'm pretty optimistic about it. And for agriculture, obviously,
Mr. Khanna?
Yeah, Sanjay ji, I'm also pretty optimistic about it. And the industry which I've come from is making people self-reliant, making people entrepreneurs. I think it aligns with the self-reliant. I think, yes, it's pretty optimistic about it.
Yes, Sainachi, what is your view?
Yeah, it is the way forward. In fact, for Self-Reliant India, entrepreneurs and startups, and they synergizing with the bigger establishments. I find both the bigger establishments and the startups are complementary in developing a self-reliant India. We are not competing with each other. We are complementary. We support each other, and we need to grow together.
Mr. Jha?
Sanjay, we are in the business of making entrepreneurs and making people self-reliant. So there cannot be anybody who's more confident on this pitch, and I'm sure we'll make it happen, and it'll be a matter of pride for all of us.
Yes, indeed. Sir, you would like to add something, Mr. Jayashanjan?
Yeah, point to one more aspect. Of course, self-reliant India is a very noble aspiration, and given our capability, we must reach there sooner than later. But I'm also very optimistic because of the new education policy which the national government has introduced. All of us know about how transformative and game-changing it can be. Some of the reasons why India was pulled back, we were not able to realize our true potential, was the way in which our colleges, our schools used to run. So if the new education policy is implemented in its true letter and spirit, I don't see any reason why we should not become self-reliant in a very short period of time.
Thank you very much, sir. Now we will take the questions from our audience. The first question comes from Krishna Prasad. His question is to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan. With the requirement of making of vaccines about to be going up, what do you think would be the opportunity for the proposed Mucherla Pharma City near Shamshabad? Hopefully, it would expedite the setting up of new units in Telangana area. Your views, please.
No, so it is a very specific question, maybe of interest only to a few people. So I'll give a very short answer. That the pharma city's main purpose, of course, it is also towards the self-reliance direction. It is basically to find local manufacturing for items which used to be imported from China. As many of us would know, lots of these APIs which go into our medicines, our bulk drugs, they are imported from China. And given the precarious situation between India and China, and also the America-China trade wars, and the fact that COVID started in China and all the industries were shut there, this also has propelled our country to start becoming self-reliant in that kind of manufacturing. So Bucherla is not so much for vaccines, it is for these bulk drugs, formulations, APIs, etc. Vaccine manufacturing in our city and our state happens in the Genome Valley. And we know that many of the top vaccine players, they have their R&D and manufacturing facility.
Okay, I will request all the audience to, you are making a lot of comments on the FB. I will request if you can ask specific questions. The next question is from Mr. Anand Sethi. The question is to Mr. Ajay Khanna. How can we raise the low personal productivity of the direct selling professional in India?
Thank you, Mr. Sethi, for that question. When I talk about how we can improve, when you asked how we can improve the productivity of the direct selling entity in India, is, like we heard in the conversation today, is that, it's all about education. It's all about training and education, And like I said, the more you learn, the more you will be able to go and, implement in the market. So learning is never, an ending solution, always need to learn. So if you have to increase your productivity, go and attend the various events which are there where a lot of training and education is given. Go and meet the different, your colleagues who are there, learn from their successes, what they're implementing in the market. And I'm sure, when you learn from them, their successes, their success stories, their, what they have been doing in the market, I think that is where, and you come back and implement in your own business, in your way of doing business, definitely, I'm sure it will help, because that's what we have seen, when we do the kind of training and education for our distributors across the country. I hope I answered that question.
Yeah. So we have no more questions on that. And whenever we have such kind of programs and we have distinguished guests, HMA always brings out a monthly newsletter, which is very educative and informative. And we would like to take this opportunity of launching the October month newsletter, November month newsletter in this forum. And I will request if our Joint Secretary may kindly join us. And meanwhile, while he joins, and we request Mr. Jayesh Ranjan to kindly, launch that newsletter. I have another question to Mr. Jayesh Ranjan from Kavita Rajesh. What kind of opportunities provided by Telangana government for new startup to promote business like marketplaces?
Yeah, creating marketplaces is again a very important requirement. We have seen in multiple sectors of the economy, very useful and innovative work has happened in creating marketplaces. So definitely lots of scope is there. So as I mentioned, we provide complete incubation and acceleration support to anyone who comes up with a good idea to develop a marketplace. We also help that person get connected with important corporate clients, and if the solution is of relevant to the government, as a part of our entrepreneurship and startup policy, the government itself becomes the first client of that solution. So many things which are listed out in our policy document also are available to entrepreneurs who are into the development of marketplaces.
Thank you, sir. Chetan, can you bring in Krishna Prasad and Mr. Ramchandra into the meeting so that we can take it forward? Chetan. Yes. Is Krishna Prasad coming in, Chetan? Sir,
there seems to be some issue with the connection of Mr. Krishna Prasad. Mr. Ramchandra has joined.
Okay.
So in case Mr. Krishna Prasad is watching us, I would request him to kindly join again. There seems to be some error with the connection.
Sir, you have, JSG, you have that PDF? So you can just launch it, please. So, gentlemen, all the viewers.
I'm clicking the PDF on my phone, and I'm delighted to launch the October edition of e-newsletter, the Management Review.
So all the viewers, this Management Review has very good articles. It can be flipped also through your mobile or everything, and do come and read it. If you want to have the copy of it, it is available in the e-form. You can go to our website and put your email ID there. You will get it every month. Thank you very much, sir, for launching it. And we come to the end of this program, and I will request our Honorary Secretary, Mr. Ramchandra Garu, to kindly give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sanjay. It is a privilege for me to thank the dignitaries who are present today. So in fact, the topic is the real burning topic or the most interesting topic in the country, MSME or even entrepreneurship. And we are really honored to have such luminaries, starting with our Principal Secretary, Jayesh Ranjan Garu, who has been an example for the development of industries, especially.
There's some voice, Chetan. Can you please off that?
Sir, your contribution for the development of industry has been phenomenal. Starting from a very small activity like, say, the permissions, the TI pass was, I think, one of the wonderful example of how industries have appreciated not only in the state of Telangana but all through in the entire country. And in fact, many of the states have adopted your model. And your points about the several incubation center, the 7 steps that you have taken are really very, sort of throwing great light to all of us, some of which we really are not aware. And I think, sir, this will go a long way in pushing the entrepreneurship in the state of Telangana. So I also take the privilege of thanking Sri Venkatram Garu, our CEO of Seedworks International, who has given his viewpoints on the 3 questions raised by our President Sanjay Kapoor Garu. I think you have answered so well, sir, and I think most of the things are very relevant. Today, even agriculture is being looked at as an enterprise, and the farmer is now becoming an entrepreneur. He is bringing modern technologies, innovative ideas, and with the support of the government, many things are happening, right from using the drone technology, using the soil mechanics, using the weather reports, etc. I think today the farmer is getting more enlightened, and I'm sure, sir, we'll see more in this particular line. I also thank Sri Sainath Abharaj Garu, who from L&T, area head L&T. Sir, your words are quite inspiring on entrepreneurship, and I think your words are really true also. I take the privilege of thanking Sri Ajay Khanna Garu, Vice President, Country Head of Herbalife International India Limited, being at the helm of this direct selling. I have seen a recent report in the newspaper saying that KPMG and FICCI, who has brought up the report, which says that the turnover in 2025 would be of the order of 645 billion in this particular sector. The growth rate has been projected at 16% during the last 5 years, and it is expected to touch around 20%. So I think, sir, there is a great future for this. These are also creating entrepreneurship, creating small businesses, making people being self-reliant, self-employed. I think direct selling has got a great say, and I think it is a real move in the country. I also will take the opportunity to thank Shishir Jha, General Manager and Country Head of 4Life Trading India Limited, who also viewed in the similar mode. Sir, I think there is no second thoughts about the future of direct selling in this country. I thought, sir, that this particular activity, this program that we have, HMA has endeavored in trying to integrate with the Indian Direct Selling Association to bring back all these aspects, I think was really very commendable. I thank IDSA also on this behalf, Mr. Chetan, who has been actively running for last nearly a month, to see that this happens in coordination with our Vice President, Srimati Kavita Garu, and our President, Sanjay Garu. I think it was it has borne the fruits today. I also would like to thank our office, the Vice Joint Secretary, Mr. Krishna Prasad Garu, for bringing out the magazine in time, and I think it is really appreciated by one and all. I thank all the members who attended today, and I feel it's a privilege for me to thank you all. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all your presence and nice words. We will close this webinar now. Thank you very much. Chetan, you can close the webinar, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.